Welcome to EDU TV with 4.5 lakh plus viewers and over 1500 educational repositories across the world. The founder is Mr. Pranav Guhathakurata and co-founder is Ms. Tanya Sethi.
In the story of education, parents have not been considered part of the story at all. And it occurred to me one day, and when I shared with others, many people responded that how can you have any effective education system if parents are actually not only not participants, they are hostile. I have been amazed in the last few years to hear parents saying, principal ko jail bhijwa denge, and being elated about it. Oh, they're outside the school gate wanting to send the principal to jail. If that is the equation between parents and educators, I don't know what we are going to have in the education system. And very often government officials are also in the same spirit. I've heard all kinds of stories from various things where there is an antagonism between the school and the state. So the point is that if you have an education system into which there is no buy-in of parents, there is a serious problem. The other thing which is very, very important and challenging, and I am not surprised that not many people notice, the reality of education in the future. As we get into the future, education will be very, very critical. It will make the distinction between those who survive and those who won't. There is absolutely, and if you have followed Yuval Noah Harari, and we have Vagish here who is more oriented towards history. See, Yuval Noah Harari has become very famous for his book called Sapiens, then Homo Deus, and then 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. And he talks about the future in an age of technology. And when he was asked, how are you able to do all this? He has no technical background. He says, I understand the Middle Ages. And because I understand the Middle Ages, I can tell you what is going to happen in the future. And that was very, very interesting. But one of the things which he has said, which very few people have really noticed, is that we are on the verge of an emergence of a useless class. And he says the emergence of the useless, just as industrialization led to something called the working class, he says this age of automation, and all of you have now seen ChatGPT and ChatGPT 4, is going to lead to an emergence of the useless class. And he says the useless class is that what they know is of no use, and what can be useful they are not capable of learning. And this is why education becomes even more important and critical. So I decided to address the topic, and because this is an event which I control, I thought some time back that we'll have the special event on this. And fortunately, talking informally, I've got two very, very illustrious speakers for our event. So we'll begin with Ritika Subhash, who's my contact with her was as a promoter of teaching maths from some company called Manga High and so on and so forth. And now she is educating parents in a greater sense. She is also participating as a more recent parent. I have now come to the stage of being a grandparent rather than a mere parent, and so on. And then we have Ramesh Sharma, who is again evangelizing technology and education. So she will be talking about a title that what is worth learning, what is truly worth learning. And Ramesh Sharma will be talking about another very, very important emergent topic. How should parents deal with ChatGPT? You see, this is what we realize, that nobody there is doing it. See, government, education, this, that, nobody is bothered about the ChatGPT has come huge impact. And who's no? So Ramesh Sharma is going to spend the time, and in between I will be playing a general busybody, trying to tell you about some ideas, etc., largely criticizing the present system of education. And I want to say that before I give it to Ritika, but so I am a great critic of the present education system. And I but sound like a conspiracy theorist. But I want to share with you, and I have my fully confirmed opinion. The education system has not been created for you to learn. It has been created to you to deny the possibility of learning. Authorities are extremely worried that if people are allowed to be on their own, they will end up learning. And they will end up learning things which are more important than what they are teaching. And I can't help. I spent a long time with Indira Gandhi Open University, and we were all sympathizers of Eklavya, because Eklavya was denied education by Dronacharya. And I'd like to share this story, and maybe I've said this before, but this is my own creativity. It is said that Dronacharya took away the thumb of Eklavya because he felt that Eklavya has learnt archery better than his student Arjun. And I have speculated as to how could he know that. He did not give any exam in which Arjun scored 80 and Eklavya scored 90. So how did Dronacharya realize that Eklavya has actually learnt more than Arjun? So I have my own concocted story on this. That the story goes that the dog was barking, and dog was barking, and Eklavya put arrows in the mouth. Now the point is, in Dronacharya curriculum, as an archer, you were taught to send the arrow to kill the person, whatever is the object, right? So go there, penetrate, so that the heart or whatever goes there. But what Eklavya had done was that he had stuffed the dog's mouth with arrows, but there was no blood there, and he did not kill the dog. That means he knew that he can calculate the velocity at the end of the trajectory of the arrow to be 0 so that it doesn't hurt the dog. And Dronacharya had not taught this to Arjuna, or maybe Dronacharya himself didn't know it, whatever. So he realized. I draw this analogy to say that this proves that people who learn on their own are actually better than the ones who are formally taught. And the government does not want any such thing to happen. So they passed in 2010 an act for compulsory education. One day it occurred to them, and I am very serious on this privately. It's a conspiracy. See, the moment internet came and MOOCs had come, government realized that हमारा तो university से संबंध होने वाला है. There is nobody who's going to, and if you know, even the poorest people were sending their children to private schools and not to government school. And therefore the government realized that if we want the government school to survive, education thing to survive, you have to make it compulsory. And have you seen the title of that act? Have you ever seen a more ridiculous title? The right to free and compulsory education. Right to compulsory education, कभी सुना है, कुछ समझ में आता है ये? It doesn't make sense. The act is called right to compulsory education. It is because that education department can be kept alive, and I have no hesitation in saying it is a den of corruption. Do you know how much money was generated in education after the RTA? Every state, and I can say as close as can be, UP, Bihar, every state chief minister was in jail because of recruitment scam. And there is no question, and I can say I know it as first hand as is possible, that states like UP, Bihar appointed lakhs of teachers, charging them lakhs of rupees per person after the passing of this act. And when I was a bit sympathetic to some of people I knew in Bihar, I said, school teacher की नौकरी के लिए आपको इतना पैसा देना पड़ा? कि सर आप परेशान क्यों हैं? उससे दूना तो दहेज में मिल गया. आप क्यों परेशान है? जैसे वो लेटर दिखाया उससे दूना तो दहेज में मिल गया. So, but that is all nice, but you can imagine the education that is being given. So parents have to be enlightened. Parents have to be able to understand that this is not for their own good. And what they should be doing is what they have to be aware of and to some extent empowered to. And that's why it is very interesting that Ritika's topic is what is really worth learning. Because what government is teaching is by no means worth learning. We have enough data. You have seen engineers unemployable. This thing was even any degree. They themselves say, I'm not saying it, they themselves say this degree mein kuch nahi hota hai. And they continue to give degrees and continue to charge students and continue. Huh? Correct thing. But what I'm saying is कि if this is not a biggest fraud, what is a fraud? ये कोई प्राइवेट आदमी कर रहा होता, एक कागज का टुकड़ा दे रहा होता, वो कहता और आप कहते इससे कोई जॉब नहीं मिलती है, आप उसको कहते सबसे बड़ा स्कैम हो गया. And you are getting people to take, and you made it compulsory. See, आप choice अब नहीं दिया है. This is the criminal offense if you don't send your child to school. So that option that I will not go to school does not arise anymore. And so, anyway, I just wanted to say that. So, but we are on a more serious note, really saying, ignore the government. What should we learn? Which begins with Ritika, and how we can do it with ChatGPT and others, with Ramesh Sharma. So, in a sense, in the next 3 hours, we would have solved the problem of education. Thank you.
Welcome to EDU TV with 4.5 lakh plus viewers and over 1,500 educational repositories across the world. The founder is Mr. Pranav Guha Thakkarada and co-founder is Ms. Tanya Sefi.